This is another Tuesday night, bringing you this knowledge. Episode 34.
34.
34 weeks strong in the game. I'm your co-host, Mindful B.
Kojo Lee.
Info Keith.
And we got a special, super extraordinary guest on the show today. It's been a long time coming. We got the master teacher himself, Baba Kilindi, and he's going to come on the shows. We wanted to talk about martial arts. We brought it up maybe towards the beginning of the show when we just started, and we wanted to revisit depth as it relates to self-sufficiency and emergency preparedness. And I'm gonna kick it over to Brother Kojo to give a full, a more comprehensive introduction to our guest speaker.
Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting and knowing Baba Kilindi since I could remember myself to a certain extent. Growing up in Detroit, amongst the African drumming and martial art community, really shaped me to be who I am. I had the pleasure of training under his brother Jahi Zuri, who's been certified to train from the school of Dan Santo Academy out in California. So it's just a blessing to reconnect with our roots and understand that a lot of what we go through today and worry and fear is a large part of philosophy, and martial arts for me has really helped me shape and mold my mind and cultivate the energy that we are. And this is a big part of why we need to understand what martial arts is all about and really break down the philosophy and the way we live our life aspect of it. And we have a great resource here in Detroit that we all need to be mindful of, which is a big part of martial arts, again, using the right tools at the right times. So this show here is really about understanding what it is to be a martial artist and get some time to really sit and get some wisdom from our great master teacher, Baba Kilindi. So Baba Kilindi, you've been basically immersed in the world of martial arts. How long would you say?
Well, it's been over 50 years. The martial arts that I practice are for the practicum. It's for practical use and applications in the person living their life. So it's not tournament martial art or MMA or things like that, but it's practical living martial arts for self-defense. And that goes into preparedness and things like that also, because when you're dealing with defense, you're dealing with defending yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, your community, also, defending your property and your food stuff and your stash and all those different types of things as far as martial art is concerned. So it's dealing with those type of sensibilities, so when we say self-defense, you're dealing with a lot of different things.
For those who may not really be familiar with the word martial arts and understand, I guess, the depth of it or the definition, the two words, I see it as one because it's, anywho. What would your definition of martial art be for those who may not be familiar with the term?
Well, martial art is utilized in the modern sense as far as warfare, dealing with the Roman god Mars and those things dealing with warfare. So, the Kemetic folks call it the Muntu arts, which is the war deity of ancient Kemet, Muntu. Other folks call it hopology, which is the study of warfare and martial arts, dealing with the Greek hoplites or the Greek soldiers who were warriors. So it's warfare arts, defensive arts, and offensive arts that martial art, the word means, and art form meaning that it's done in an artful way, but it's a modern term and it's used colloquially with pretty much everybody. So when you say martial arts, folks know what you're talking about,
Right. And it's interesting that you brought up the UFC and MMA aspect of it, because that's one thing that I want to make a point to kind of hammer in is that you can use that as a tool to learn and observe if you understand some of the art forms, but to really practice the philosophical standpoint of it, because you're sitting at home and flicking the channel, remote controller, watching Pacquiao and Mayweather fight. I mean, it's exciting, but to not really understand the science behind it, you're missing the point. And so, really, to live life in a kind of a meditative state of awareness. That's one of the main things I learned. Was taught to me early before we threw a punch or kicked. It was about understanding. Martial arts is about raising your spiritual antenna and being aware of what's going on, so that you get to the point. You can get to the situation where you may feel a certain situation coming up before you even go to it and avoid it altogether, which for me, martial arts has been about, like you say, defense, and then the greatest defense is not to be involved in a conflict. We had a guest on last week who talked about a warrior is really in love, and the only time they really want to go to war is to protect their love, and what you described. Our community are things that we need to survive off of. So what would you say, looking at your story, pushed you into the world of martial arts and understanding the science behind it?
Well, just being more efficient in protecting myself. My father was a professional boxer. I wrestled as a young boy, and I looked at ways to be more efficient in protecting myself because, in those days, in the early 60s and things like that, you had bullies. I know they have bullies now. I was teaching I was in a class, and a young boy said that he was being bullied on the internet. This was when, and I said, well, how do you get bullied on the internet? Because at the time I didn't know.
Right.
And he said, well, somebody sent him a text with all capital letters in it. And I said, well, how is that bullying? He said, he sent me a text with all capital letters in it. I said, okay, how's that bullying you? Because I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with the information that's nowadays bullying, because, in my day, bullying, the bigger the guys would take you, and we used to have trash cans made out of galvanized, and if you were smaller, they'd take you and put you in a trash can, put the top on it, roll you down the middle of the street into traffic, stuff like that. That was bullying, a drop of, M80 or a cherry bomb down your shirt and stuff like that. You only got a couple of seconds to get it out. So that's the kind of bullying that we had. So it's a little different than cyberbullying. And then so I didn't understand the sensibility of the modern bullying, and I know things that are in the more practicum go on also in modern times. But it's interesting you mentioned Mayweather and Pacquiao, because and MMA, because actually the earliest MMA fights were with the black boxers around the turn of the 19th century into the 20th century. Men like Sam Langford and Jack Johnson and people like that fought in what was called All In, or the Battle Royale. Battle Royale was where you would have people 10 in a ring. Jack Johnson would knock 10 people out in the ring blindfolded. And you talk about jiu-jitsu and things like that. Sam Langsford beat the Australian jiu-jitsu champ back in 1904. He was a boxer against the jiu-jitsu champ. So black fighters were doing MMA a long time before the Gracies started the UFC in, I believe, the 90s, I think it was.
It's interesting you bring that up, because one thing I think about fighting a lot is when it becomes a fanfare, when it becomes like celebrated for the violence that it has. I notice at times it can be used to manipulate like the masses, like back when they had the Roman days where everyone was frustrated, things were falling apart, so they wanted to go and watch the lions chew on people or just watch people tear them limb from limb. What is your philosophy or thoughts on the peaceful or the use of martial arts for entertainment value?
Well, that's what it was, entertainment. They didn't have TVs, they didn't have the internet, so what did you do? You went and saw somebody throw a bunch of Christians to the lions and see how, who won. Usually lions won. And then you had fighters. So it's no different than entertainment today.
Now, did they try to mix? Did they try to mix like kind of like how we have reality TV now? Was it like, let's see if the Christian God will save them from the lions? Did they? Do you know in your research did they exploit it on that level, or was it just?
Well, that was the whole purpose of it.
Okay.
That was the whole purpose of it.
Okay.
But martial art is warfare first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
The philosophical, the historical, the other ramifications that go along with it are sidebars and icing on the cake. The main thing is dealing with protecting yourself. It's not about going out to fight someone. It's about, if someone's bringing it to you, you have to be able to defend yourself, because every human being has the sovereign right to be able to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Not just themselves, but their loved ones, their property, the things that they have in life that make life meaningful. Just like, no different than the preparation stuff. You go about and you learn to preserve food. You dry food, you can food. Mm-hmm. You store food away properly. You take the proper grains and put them into the proper containers, those type of things, and you want to protect those things. I've been doing this so long, I don't know, even how long it's been. I still have food from 1999 when I put it away for Y2K. People told me, you silly for preparing for Y2K. Ain't nothing gonna happen, and then you're gonna be stuck with all that food. I would say, I'm gonna be stuck with all that food. Yeah, you're right, because I'm still eating that food. I put hard red winter wheat away in plastic buckets, stored properly, and I still have hard red winter wheat that is just as good as when I put it in 1999. I use it in my grain mills to make bread, to make pasta, to make pizzas in my, in my pizza oven, which I built out of cob or out of mud, in my backyard. I have, I have wood burning stove. I have coal fired stoves that I utilize in my house, rather than Michigan Consolidated, because that was the trick of the late 1950s, early 1960s, when most people in Detroit had coal furnaces. Mm-hmm. Coal was a almost inexhaustible source. But the gas people came in and said, "Oh, the coal is dirty and it's sooty and it's old-fashioned. You got to go down there and stoke the furnace and things like that." You need modern gas. It's cheap. It's real cheap. It's even almost as cheap as coal. And then when they made everybody take their coal furnaces out of their houses, then they started raising the price of gas. And you were stuck because nobody had coal furnaces anymore, coal boilers. Nobody was doing that type of thing anymore. So now everybody's stuck with the gas. Except I do happen to sell Key Stoker boilers and furnaces that utilize anthracite coal. Anthracite coal is it's hard coal. It's not like the old coal back in the 1960s where you had which was bituminous coal, soft coal. We have hard coal. It's like glass, and it burns a blue flame just like the natural gas. And it's on a thermostat. You can use it just like your regular furnace or boiler. That's gas. It can be put in tandem with your regular furnace or boiler, and it utilizes anthracite coal, where you could get your yearly heating bill down to about $600-700 a year, including your hot water, utilizing coal, and it's really no more innocuous or obnoxious to the environment as natural gas. So, we have these type of things that are still available. You can still go off grid. Where you have battery systems, inverters, utilizing solar panels, wind generators, or generators, to power your house. My house was powered by inverter and batteries, and I had a break-in, and they stole my inverters, so Got to buy some new inverters. But
You must not have been there because I know you would have.
no, I wasn't there at the time. I was out of the country in South Africa, doing speaking at a conference and touring around South Africa and finding out different things there. So, you have a chance to be able to utilize these type of things. People don't understand that the water is only about 16 feet from your basement. You can drive a well in your basement and have your own water source. Put a electric or solar pump on it, pump the water up from the aquifers down in the ground. Have your own water sources because there were wells all around here. Because we still live in Michigan, we're in the bottom. The bottom is that Pontiac is the highlands, Detroit is the lowlands. That's why they call it black bottom, because it's in the bottom. Detroit sits in the bowl down by the river because the water comes from up and comes down south to the river or to the strait or to the lakes. So you have water all over the place. You got Connor Creek, which is Connor Street. You got water under MacDougal, Van Dyke. There's a stream under Van Dyke. You got streams and lakes all under these cities. They use them as water runoff for the sewage system. So what they're actually talking about doing is, number one, filling in the freeways downtown, because that's what actually destroyed the black community in the city of Detroit, as far as things like Paradise Valley and Hastings Street, and spread black people out in other parts of the cities, was 375 and 75. 75 is Hastings. Hastings was the main thoroughfare for black people. After that, after Hastings was destroyed, things moved to 12th. And then at 1967, of course, the insurrection happened, which, I was there for that one. I wasn't there for the one in 1943, which my father was. But the thing is that you have creeks and streams and rivers all over here, and they're talking about uncovering those streams and rivers so that they can have nature areas and things like that for the new folks who are coming into the city to be able to walk around, and greenways and things like that, and filling in the freeways so that there's no freeways downtown, that you have these little rent-a-cars like zip cars, and eventually it'll be the cars that run themselves. You just call up on your phone and the little car run up to you, and you get in the car and it'll ride you wherever you want to go. And that's what eventually is part of the plan, because that was part of the plan as far back as 1949 when Jeffries was the mayor. It's called the Jeffries Plan, to make Detroit the first 21st century city, because Detroit now has the ability to put in new infrastructure where you couldn't do that in Chicago or New York or San Francisco or anything like that. But Detroit would be the first 21st century city, and that goes back all the way to 1949. And
how can somebody
we're in the midst of it?
What can you name that plan once again?
The Jeffries Plan.
Jeffries Plan. Okay, yeah, that makes me think of something we can talk about on the next segment, in regards of our sovereignness and playing that game between legalities. Because from my understanding, I recently discovered, I didn't know this, but I guess some places say you can't collect water that falls out the sky, like it's like illegal. And when I heard about it, it's just like, what? Like my mind couldn't even process that. I wouldn't never listen to that. And just me being me, I don't know. I don't know about.
They say it's illegal to have a garden.
Yeah, and have chickens and different things. So we can get into some of that discussion after the break. I think, B. Anthony, you do it better than I can, so you can take us off into to the break.
Oh, the pressure.
Yep.
The pressure. So again, this is episode 34. I'm talking with the metaphysician, researcher, master teacher, martial artist, Baba Kilindi. You know us, the trio. What you call us? The three-headed
body.
Three-headed body. Readyo Radio. If you know somebody that's not tuning in, tell them go get the Urban Nation Radio app. Watch us on live every Tuesday night on Urban Nation Radio. And we'll be right back after these messages. This is Readyo Radio.
Peace.
Peace and power.